Ohio Senator Rob Portman is once again urging the U.S. to step up sanctions on Russia as it escalates attacks on Ukraine. Senator Portman joins us this morning. He's a former trade representative. He co-chairs the Senate Ukraine caucus. We carved out some energy parts of the sanctions already. Rob, do you want to put those in? Do you want to add additional? Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Joe, I think we had to tighten up the sanctions overall and provide more military assistance and get it there more quickly. They're desperate right now. But in terms of the trade side of this, we have given Russia preferential trade treatment, as we have all WTO members, to our market. And I think we should cut it off. We've done it before. We did it back during the Serbian wars. We should say to them, privilege, not a right, to get into our market. We don't do a lot of trade with Russia, and we actually have a $16 billion trade deficit. But the impact of that, Joe, as an example, would be about a 50-cent per gallon increase in gasoline. So, I mean, it actually, I'm sorry, per barrel for gas. So this is something that actually would help with regard to the oil and gas situation, too. But, yeah, I think it's untenable that we're cutting off XL pipeline. The Keystone XL pipeline is about 800,000 plus barrels per day. The Russians are sending us about 600,000 barrels per day. Let's open up our own energy here in North America. Let's do more in terms of allowing leasing on public lands. Let's change the Biden administration approach, which is stifling oil and gas production here in this country. Obviously, it's a national security concern. We see that very clearly now. And let's cut off the Russian supply to us. And why are we sending them all these revenues to help their economy right now? We should be doing just the opposite.
Senator, are you under the impression we're producing less? We just had someone on, an ESG individual, saying we're at all-time highs for natural gas production and oil production in the United States.
Well, yeah, that's because prices are so darn high, but we could do a lot more if we were to unleash, what we can do in this country, including on public lands. As you know, this is a matter of litigation right now, but the administration is trying to literally shut off new exploration and production on public lands. At the same time, Keystone XL pipeline, again, that would have been 820,000 barrels of oil per day, more than accounting for all of the Russian oil coming into our country. So it just doesn't make any sense. And by the way, the Canadians feel the same way about it, as you know. They feel strongly that energy is a national security issue, and we want to work together as a North American compact.
Robert, would you put oil on the table for what we do to Russia? It seems like we've sort of tiptoed around that. It's happening anyway. Russia's having trouble exporting, but would you just make it official? Say we're not buying any. If torpedoes be damned, if we go to $150, $200 a barrel in this country?
Well, we won't, Joe. Again, if we make more efforts here to produce what we've got.
Doesn't that take time?
Well, it takes time, but we're going just the opposite way. I mean, Keystone XL pipeline is an example. That won't take much time. It's almost completed. And again, it would be something where we could immediately get significant amounts. But also, in my home state of Ohio, as you know, we have natural gas production. Because the prices are up, there's more being produced at the wells that are there. But there ought to be an effort right now to say, let's do all we can to produce more in this country, and let's do what we can to send LNG, liquefied natural gas, to Europe so that they don't have to rely on Russia. The concern there, as you know, is the export and import ports to be able to handle it. But we can do a lot more, and we're sending a lot of that to Asia right now that could instead be sent to Europe. So I just think we have to view energy as an advantage. We happen to have these incredible reserves of natural gas and oil in this country. And instead of cutting them off and stifling production, we ought to be using it right now. Ultimately, that's probably the most significant weapon we have vis-a-vis Russia.
When it's all said and done, you think China is going to be a part of the problem or part of the solution in dealing with Russia?
Well, they have a choice. They can be part of the solution. Among other things, the state central bank in Russia, as you know, has now been sanctioned. However, China has about 14% of those foreign reserves. So China is effectively allowing Russia access right now to some of these reserves where other countries, including the United States, are not, including, by the way, God bless them, Switzerland and other countries that traditionally have been non-aligned. So I do think China has an opportunity, a specific opportunity right now, to say that they're not going to allow Russian access to some of these foreign reserves that they have in China. So it's an opportunity for them. They have to make a decision. Are they going to stand with tyranny or stand with freedom?
Well, before this happened, we said, well, depending on how the West reacts to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, China's watching to see when they can take Taiwan. Does it make it more likely, less likely? Is that still going to happen? Obviously, if they pretend that they're horrified by Russia's actions, then it's going to be hard for them to go into Taiwan.
Yeah, well, look, they made a statement early on, as you know, saying that Ukraine is not like Taiwan. I'm not quite sure what that meant. There was some people who were thinking positively this means that they're not going to do to Taiwan what Russia's doing to Ukraine. I viewed it kind of the opposite way, which is to say we don't view Taiwan as an independent country, which they don't. So I think, it may be mixed here. But the bottom line is they're seeing the global reaction to what's happening. It's not just the United States, it's freedom-loving countries all over the world are appalled by what is happening. They view this as an atrocity. And I think the same thing would be true if the Chinese were to do this with regard to Taiwan. So my hope is, Joe, that they're seeing this is terrible for Russia's economy. It's something where the entire world is now isolating Russia, with the exception of a couple of countries like China. And so, this is not in their interest. So my hope is overall, they would say we need to pull back a little bit in terms of our aggressive behavior in the Indo-Pacific area.
Senator, if the Fed follows through, and some say they need to even more now, and if oil stays above 100 for an extended period, is there going to be stagflation? Is that going to be our worst case scenario in a possible recession, in your view?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the concern. I know that Chairman Powell's going to speak today about this, but the earlier report about interest rates actually going down relative to mortgages anyway is concerning in the sense that we're trying to fight inflation here. And by the way, last night in his speech, President Biden had a chance to talk about what is causing inflation, which is both demand and supply. He chose to focus only on the supply side. And again, oil prices is clearly one of the problems. So if you want to help on the supply side, you should allow natural gas and oil to be produced here without stifling it. But he didn't talk about the demand side, which is the fact that we have dumped so much money into the economy. After talking about how bad inflation was, he immediately said, and isn't the American Rescue Plan great? That's the $1.9 trillion package, that most of which did not go to COVID relief at all, that everybody who looked at it pretty much, who was objective, said, this is going to stimulate more economic growth, yes, but it's also going to stimulate a lot more inflation at a time when the economy is already improving. We were already heading back to the pre-COVID level based on all the independent analysis. And so Larry Summers was right, as were a lot of us, saying this is going to, on this show we talked about it, increase inflation. So my concern about last night's speech was, you kind of missed the opportunity to say we're going to do something to actually get this inflation under control rather than spending more, which is what he proposed instead.
All right, Senator. We appreciate it. Big East tournament's coming up. I don't know. I'm not optimistic, really, though, this year for XU. But good to see you. Maybe.
Well, Dayton and Cincinnati are having as good years, but I'm hopeful for Xavier. Right, I'm not happy with opening day being postponed, though, Joe. Opening day, got to get it back on.
Terrible. All right. Thanks, Senator.
Thanks, Joe.